Back in high school, I ran a campaign called The Last City, and it was infamous for being an extremely deadly campaign. The campaign was set a few thousand years after an apocalypse had ravaged the world, leaving only a single city in the middle of a forest. Now the people of the city were beginning to venture outside of the stone walls to level up and get treasure. Oh, and also to make the area safe again and stuff. This campaign was a Western Marches campaign, which means that there were a bunch of players in the campaign, and each session would only consist of 4 or 5 of them going out on some adventure in the wilderness outside of the city walls. I've actually told a bunch of stories from this campaign already on this channel, and I'll put them all into a playlist, but warning, some of them are pretty low quality because they were made really early on in this channel's lifespan. This video is going to be a collection of short stories and funny moments that weren't long enough to get their own video. During one of the first sessions of the campaign, 2 players were sneaking around a goblin outpost, and while one of the players was sneaking up to lockpick one of the doors, he got spotted by some goblins. The other player took this opportunity to abandon his friend to be captured, and he sprinted out into the woods back towards the city. However, while he was traveling, he rolled for a random encounter, and he managed to get what was at the time the worst random encounter on the chart, an owlbear. I rolled stealth for the owlbear trying to sneak up on the player, and it got a natural 20. Roll perception. Natural 1. You don't notice anything as you look around the dark clearing. Then you feel a faint breath on the back of your neck, followed by the sound of an owl hooting. I turn around with my bow ready. You see a 7-foot-tall creature towering over you. It looks like a bear covered in feathers, and it has the head of an owl. It looks pissed. Well, shit. Needless to say, his level 1 character did not survive the encounter with the owlbear, and later that week another party went over to his corpse to bury what was left of him, and to take all of his stuff. Well, he won't be needing it anymore. During the first session of the campaign, while exploring a goblin dungeon underneath a tavern, a party found a large stone door with arcane runes carved into it that explained that they needed to find 2 specific magic items and bring them back here to open the door. About a month later, the players had managed to find the magic items and return to the door, extremely excited to see what was on the other side. They opened the door and entered into an enormous undead dungeon that I had spent a very long time preparing, and that I thought would take them around a month of adventures to fully explore. Eventually they got into an encounter on a lower floor that didn't seem to be going very well for the party. Robin, quick, heal me! I can't, I got really lucky on my beast form hit points, but I'm fucking dying! Suddenly, the combat was interrupted by the 3rd member of the party running into the room full of ghosts, in the dungeon full of undead, and shouted, I think there might be ghosts! Anyway, don't be a baby, you already have 2 past death saves. And 2 failed death saves because somebody refused to heal me for the past 4 rounds of combat. See? That's a 55% chance of you surviving. I don't like those odds. I rolled a 4, so I'm dead. Well, shit. I drop my bear form and run out the door of this room, then try to flee the dungeon. The party fled the dungeon, and for some reason they never told any other characters about the dungeon, and they never went back there. To this day, that was still one of my favorite dungeons I have ever designed, and I may or may not have been slightly annoyed that they never went back there. One time, the party found an ancient wizard's tower in the middle of the plains, and upon entering the bottom floor, they saw a bunch of suits of armor set up around the room. I go over to one of the suits of armor and put it on. Okay then, I guess. You put the armor on. However, a few moments after you do that, you feel the armor come alive, along with all of the other suits of armor in the room. The player was trapped inside of an animated armor, and he and the armor kept fighting against each other's movements as they both tried to kill the other's allies, until eventually, the only animated armor left alive was the one that the player was wearing. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna have to hit you with this axe. Wait, no, don't do that. I'm sure we can try the diplomatic approach. That's exactly what we're doing. Now stand still. This is going to hurt me a lot more than it will hurt you. I highly doubt that. The party almost killed the player that was trapped inside, but eventually the animated armor died and they continued with their adventure. Later in the campaign, the party found a massive ravine with a large series of tunnels and caves that were all full of monsters and treasure, and they went down into there to explore for a session, and returned to town, where they proceeded to tell nobody about the caverns, and they also never went back to the massive cavern dungeon I'd spent a week preparing. Are you starting to see a pattern now? Anyway, early on in the campaign, this one player had gotten the exact same random encounter 3 times in a row. The encounter was against a small group of cockatrices. They're like a weird hybrid of chickens, bats, and lizards. And when they hit you, you have to make a saving throw or get turned to stone for 24 hours. Eventually, while investigating a dungeon, the party came across a small amulet hidden inside of a locked chest. I cast Identify on it. You learn that the amulet gives you +1 to hit cockatrices and +1 to damage against them. The druid immediately equipped it and they continued on their adventure. Over the next few months, the party began to notice that they have been getting a lot of random encounters involving cockatrices, and in most of the encounters they would completely ignore the entire party and just run to attack the druid with the amulet. In the final month of the campaign, the party found an elderly magic merchant in a shack next to a ravine. We would like to buy some magic items. Alright, come on in, but deactivate the amulet of cockatrice pheromone first. I don't want them trying to break into here. The what? The amulet of cockatrice pheromone that you're currently wearing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.